For the first time in nearly half a century, Voyager 1 didn't just transmit data, it turned back. And what it saw on that return path made NASA engineers freeze in disbelief. Screens lit up with anomalous signals, strange repeating codes, and fragments of images that no one could explain. Instruments behaved as though something was shadowing the probe, as if the darkness itself had begun to move. What Voyager 1 found out there is forcing NASA to ask a terrifying question. Did something turn it around? In 1977, at the height of the Cold War, when nations pointed missiles at one another and the future felt uncertain, humanity did something almost poetic. We built a machine not to wage war, but to carry our story into the stars. That machine was Voyager 1. Strapped to its side was the Golden Record, an interstellar time capsule of music, greetings, and images chosen to tell anyone, or anything, who found it who we were. Bach and Chuck Berry, greetings in dozens of languages, the sound of a mother's kiss to her child. It was humanity's voice in a bottle, cast into a cosmic ocean we barely understood. Voyager's mission was ambitious but simple. Explore the outer planets, snap photos, send back data, then drift silently into the abyss. And for decades, that's exactly what it did. It gave us breathtaking portraits of Jupiter's storm bands, Saturn's rings glittering like diamonds, and even our own Earth, shrunk to the pale blue, a fragile pinprick of light suspended in darkness. Then, as its cameras dimmed and its instruments grew older, Voyager crossed into uncharted territory, interstellar space. No other human creation had gone this far. 15 billion miles from home, it was now operating beyond the protective bubble of the heliosphere, exposed to the raw winds of the galaxy. Picture it. A small, aging probe drifting alone in endless blackness. Temperatures near absolute zero. No sunlight to warm it, no planets to guide it. Just the hum of its faint signal, taking over 20 hours to reach Earth. For scientists, Voyager was a symbol of constancy. A reminder that no matter how chaotic life on Earth became, Voyager always moved forward, deeper into the unknown. Until now, suddenly something changed. At first, the data looked like nothing more than static. A hiccup in the stream. Voyager 1's transmissions, though faint, had always been reliable, steady beacons carrying measurements of cosmic rays, magnetic fields, and plasma waves. But in early reports, NASA's Deep Space Network flagged something odd. Voyager's telemetry showed a deviation. According to its instruments, the probe wasn't drifting smoothly forward anymore. Instead, its orientation had shifted, as if nudged ever so slightly, off its projected course. Engineers scrambled to check their systems. Was it a ground error? A calibration fault? Yet as they recalculated and cross-checked the data, the anomaly persisted. The spacecraft was behaving as though some unseen hand had touched it. Then the signals began to fracture. Instead of crisp packets of data, Voyager started sending garbled bursts, broken codes that repeated in eerie loops. At first glance, it looked like corruption. But when scientists lined up the sequences, they realized the repetition wasn't random. The patterns carried structure, symmetry, almost like a message. And then came the most unsettling moment. Buried in the transmissions were compressed image fragments, something Voyager hadn't been expected to capture in decades. When technicians pieced the files together, their screens filled with grainy, distorted frames, dark shapes, streaks of light bending in unnatural arcs. And in one sequence, a form that seemed to shimmer, like a silhouette against the void. The room fell silent. These weren't artifacts of camera noise, not at that resolution. They were pictures of something that shouldn't have been there, in the vast emptiness between the stars. What Voyager 1's camera recorded shouldn't have been possible. Inside NASA's mission control, the mood was split between disbelief and urgency. The first explanations were cautious, grounded in physics. A veteran flight engineer leaned over his console and muttered, "It's a software glitch. Voyager's just confused. 48 years in the deep, it was bound to hiccup." Others nodded, blaming cosmic radiation for scrambling the ancient circuitry. That theory made sense. Radiation storms had interfered before, though never this dramatically. But the anomaly refused to vanish. The course deviation held steady, and the repeating signal patterns grew harder to dismiss as chance. A systems analyst raised another possibility: a malfunctioning gyroscope. If the attitude control wheels are drifting, Voyager might be spinning, throwing its instruments off, she suggested. Yet even she admitted the data didn't fully align. The more they studied, the stranger it became. One physicist, reviewing the orientation data, whispered almost unwillingly, "It looks less like a failure and more like guidance." The word hung in the air, heavy, unscientific, but impossible to ignore. Was Voyager being steered? And if so, by what? Behind closed doors, the debates grew heated. Some pushed for caution, warning against sensationalism. Others were uneasy, pointing out that the structured signals resembled deliberate encoding, not random interference. As fragments of the story leaked online, through cryptic tweets, anonymous forum posts, and whispered speculation, public rumor spread faster than official statements. Was NASA hiding something? Was Voyager transmitting proof of contact? Or was it simply the aging heartbeat of a dying machine, misinterpreted by desperate eyes? Inside the control room, one question rose above the noise, chilling in its simplicity. If not error, then what? Outside the walls of NASA, speculation spread like wildfire. Science journalists and astrophysicists offered cautious explanations, trying to anchor the mystery in natural phenomena. Some pointed to dark matter, the invisible scaffolding of the universe, suggesting Voyager might have brushed against a pocket dense enough to tug its course. Others argued it could be a previously undetected stellar object, a rogue planet or asteroid lurking in interstellar space. A third camp believed a magnetic anomaly, perhaps a shock wave from a distant supernova, was interfering with Voyager's instruments, creating the illusion of a turn. But while the scientific theories circulated, another, far more sensational narrative took root. What if the probe hadn't just stumbled into physics but into presence? Some claimed Voyager had been intercepted by an alien craft, a vessel cloaked in the dark, invisible to our telescopes but not to Voyager's sensors. Others pointed to the repeating patterns in the signal, asking if they were truly glitches, or if something out there was trying to speak back. And then came the boldest suggestion of all. What if someone or something had finally answered the golden record? Humanity's carefully curated hello, drifting for decades, might have reached an audience. And that audience had replied. Whispers of a cover-up added fuel to the fire. Leaked memos, blurred images, and anonymous testimonies hinted that NASA knew more than it admitted. Forums filled with fiery debates. Skeptics versus believers, science versus conspiracy, hope versus fear. The what-ifs grew louder. What if Voyager had found proof of intelligence? What if NASA was too afraid to tell us? What if the probe was no longer under our control? And then, a new signal arrived that changed everything. The shift began quietly, almost overlooked, buried in a stream of telemetry. Voyager's signal, once fractured and uneven, began to align into an unmistakable rhythm. What had seemed like noise now carried order. Lines of binary repeated with precision, breaks forming intervals too deliberate to ignore. A technician noticed first. "This isn't random," he whispered, staring at the pattern crawling across his monitor. Others leaned in, realization dawning with a chill. Voyager wasn't just broadcasting, it was relaying something structured. The data, when decoded, sent a shiver through the room. Embedded within were sequences hauntingly familiar. They mirrored transmissions humanity had once sent into space decades earlier, our first experimental radio signals, crude but distinct. It was as though Voyager was echoing Earth's own voice back at us. But here was the impossible part. Those signals should have long since vanished into the void. Someone or something had caught them and returned them through Voyager. As if to underscore the point, the probe's trajectory told another story. Analysts reviewing the orientation data concluded it wasn't a malfunction at all. The craft hadn't drifted. It had been nudged, turned deliberately, as though guided from the outside. "It's not a glitch," one physicist muttered, his voice taut with dread. "It's influence. Something touched it." The implications rippled through NASA like a shockwave. If true, Voyager was not alone. After nearly half a century of silence, the bottle humanity cast into the cosmic ocean had not just been found, it had been answered. Was this the dawn of first contact? Or a warning from something far beyond comprehension? The divide was stark. Some saw hope, a cosmic handshake, proof that humanity wasn't shouting into emptiness. Others saw danger, a sign that we had been noticed and perhaps marked. Is this first contact? One engineer asked under his breath. Or the first warning? Within hours, NASA convened an emergency meeting. Security was tightened, documents sealed. Yet secrets don't stay buried for long. By the week's end, whispers of classified Voyager data and external control leaked onto obscure forums, fueling speculation the world wasn't supposed to hear. For decades, Voyager 1 was a symbol of quiet endurance, a messenger drifting ever outward. But now, if the structured data truly was a reply, then humanity's long-forgotten greeting had triggered something far larger than expected. Our hello had been heard and answered. That realization forces unsettling questions. How should we respond? Do we dare send another message, knowing it might reveal more about us than we want strangers to know? Are we ready, as a species, for the consequences of being noticed? The panic at NASA wasn't just about signals and anomalies, it was about control. For the first time, humanity wasn't the one guiding Voyager. Something beyond Earth had reached out, nudged our creation, and spoken in a voice we couldn't fully understand. Was this curiosity, compassion, or caution? Or was it a warning to step back from boundaries we weren't meant to cross? Whatever the truth, one thing is undeniable. Voyager's mission is no longer just about exploration. It may now represent a dialogue, one that could shape the future of humanity itself. But one thing is clear, Voyager's mission isn't over. It may be just beginning. Voyager 1 was never meant to return. It was supposed to drift into eternity, a silent ambassador carrying our message into the stars. Yet against all expectation, it turned back, as if answering to something that had been watching in the dark all along. That single act forces us to confront questions that shake the foundation of our place in the universe. What if we're not alone? What if the vast emptiness we once imagined is in fact alive with listeners, waiting for us to speak? And more unsettling still, what if they've been here before, watching from the shadows of time, their presence woven into mysteries we've never been able to explain? Every discovery begins with a question, but this one feels different. It feels like a doorway opening. What if Voyager's signal isn't just a message? It's an invitation, or perhaps a warning that we've crossed a threshold we don't yet understand. In the end, the real question isn't what Voyager saw. It's what will happen when we finally see it too. And if that moment is near, humanity must decide. Will we face the unknown with fear or with wonder?